Hey guys, hope you're all doing great. I'm Ethan, and today we're diving into another set of wild Reddit stories. If you enjoy these deep dives, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss the next one. All right, fellas, let's jump right in. First story coming up. Much love, boys.
The cashier's smile died as the little screen flashed red. Declined. My card had worked that morning at the gas station, and last night when I grabbed pizza on the way home, I tried it again and felt the eyes at the self-checkout stick to me like humidity. Declined. It wasn't the amount: milk, eggs, a bag of flour, a six-pack of the cheap beer I drink while I sand down brake rotors. I'm not the type to panic in public, but I could feel the shape of panic pressing up from my chest, trying to get out. I stepped aside and opened my banking app with the grease-black thumb I hadn't managed to scrub clean. The number punched me in the jaw. Negative $983. The joint checking account had always been boring and predictable. Checks in on Fridays, rent out on the 1st, utilities in the teens, groceries like clockwork. Seeing it in the red felt like looking down to find the ground had slipped a foot lower than it should be. I called my wife. "Hey," I said, trying to make my voice flat. "My card just got declined at Kroger." There was a long beat. I heard office noise in the background. Keyboard clicks, a coffee machine, someone telling a story too loud. "That's weird," Amanda said. "Their system's been weird lately. I read about outages. Just try again." "It's not the terminal," I said. "We're in the negative." "Negative?" Paper shuffled. "That's not right. We had, $2,000 on Monday? Let me check when I get a break. Just use the credit card for now." We had a rule about credit, only for emergencies and big stuff we pay off right away. That rule was her idea. I stood there with my front pocket turned inside out so the cashier could scan my Kroger Plus. I felt like a teenager caught without lunch money. I paid with the emergency card and walked out into the parking lot with my groceries, the Ohio wind knifing between the gray rows of cars. It was one of those late March days in Columbus where the sky can't decide what it wants to be. A smear of light in the west, low clouds like steel wool everywhere else. By the time I got home to our duplex in Franklinton, the big number was now a string of little numbers in my head. -49.99, -49, -49, -29, -50 again. McGreevy Sports, Riverside Play, Tap Tap Spin. Names I didn't recognize. Names that sounded like carnival booths with barkers and stuffed animals you never win. I tried to convince myself they were fraud. People get skimmed. Cards get cloned. It happens. I dialed the bank. A woman with a patient voice that kept a sad distance explained that the charges had been authorized from our devices, that they matched previous patterns, that our bank's fraud team had approved them. "What patterns?" I asked. "Microtransactions to gaming and entertainment vendors," she said, "and there's been regular funds transferred to a digital wallet." "What digital wallet?" She told me a name I'd heard on commercials during football. I felt my face get hot in that stupid way where it starts in your ears and works its way forward. "How much total?" I asked, standing at our kitchen sink, staring past the wilting basil plant and at the alley we share with the guys who rebuild lawnmowers. "I can put together an itemized list," she said. "Last 30 days, you're at $3,821.73. Your account has also had an automatic payment pull of $249 to an auto-related lender." "I don't have an auto loan," I said. The words slid out of my mouth and clattered on the floor. "We own our car." "Sir, I'm seeing a lien holder on your account with auto title collateralization. I can't see the title, I can only see the payment history." "Since when?" "Or months." When I hung up, the kitchen was too quiet. I turned off the faucet I didn't remember turning on. My hands shook, and water fell off my fingers like I'd just pulled them out of something cold. I took 3 breaths, then called Amanda again. Voicemail. I called again. Voicemail. She texted, "On a call. Everything okay?" I typed and erased 5 different versions. Settled on, "We're overdrawn. There are charges. We need to talk." She answered with a thumbs up. I stared at that little blue sign and wanted to throw the phone into the sink. I couldn't not look, so I did something I don't like to do. The passcode to her phone is our dog's birthday, and the phone was there on the counter because she never goes anywhere without it except to the bathroom. You don't marry someone you plan to spy on. But I pressed the code and felt the cheap betrayal of it work. I was in. Her notifications were a heartbeat. Ping, ping, ping. It was a group chat with some screen names I didn't know and a stream of, "Gee, Queen, you kept us alive. Big thanks for the support tonight." Then a little confetti animation, like you see when people send money. I scrolled. Links to live streams, screenshots of bets with green boxes around winners. The losers didn't have green boxes. There were a lot of screenshots without green boxes. The door opened. Amanda stepped into the kitchen with her work tote cradled like a baby. Her perfume hit me first, light, clean, the one from the blue bottle I bought her at Christmas. She smiled, saw my face, and the smile hung in the air, a second like a balloon someone let go of. "What?" she said. The tote slid to the floor. "Kyle? What?" "We're overdrawn," I said. "It came out flatter than I felt." I held up her phone. "And this is what for?" Her eyes flicked to the phone and back. It took a full second for her brain to pick a story. I saw it happen. The first one is always, "I don't know what that is." The second is, "It's not what it looks like." She skipped both and went straight to sorry. "Okay," she said, voice thin. "Okay, listen, it's a thing I do for stress." "What kind of thing?" She swallowed. "Games. Games that cost almost $4,000 in a month?" "They don't always," she said too fast. "It started during the pandemic. We were trapped. I needed something to take the edge off after work. Just a little fun. I can stop. We can figure this out. It's not." "You took a title loan on the car," I said. Her mouth opened and closed. "What?" "The bank told me. Payments are being pulled to an auto lender." It's temporary." She reached for me and I pulled back. That hurt her more than I meant it to. "Kyle, please." I panicked when I got behind 1 month, and the fees were so high, and I was going to fix it before you noticed. She lowered her voice. "I didn't want you to think I was weak." "I don't care about weak," I said, and that was true. I care about lying. She flinched. Tears gathered and made her eyes glassy. "She's beautiful when she cries, in that way that makes you feel like the bad guy just for stating facts." "It's my fault," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I swear I'm done." "How much?" I said, like I was asking the price of snow tires. "How much total since you started?" She closed her eyes. "I don't." "How much?" I heard my voice get hard. It surprised me as much as it surprised her. I barely ever raise my voice. I spend my days coaxing bolts out of rust and screws back into plastics that crack if you push too hard. That patient part of me had stepped outside and closed the door. 40, she said finally. I think it's a little over 40. But that's since 2020. I was doing good for a while. I even won sometimes. $40,000 has a specific weight when you have never seen 40,000 of anything. It sits on your chest and dares you to raise your arms. I leaned back against the counter and looked at the magnet cupboard fridge like it might have an answer. One magnet is a little dog-shaped thing our nephew gave us. Another is from an oil change place with a calendar. There's a photo of us at Hocking Hills. I thought about my dad's hands on the day he taught me to set a torque wrench and how the click felt like a secret. "Click. You can stop now. That's enough." She came toward me and put her hands on my chest. "We can do this," she said. "I'll delete everything. We'll get a counselor. You can hold the cards. I'll do whatever. Just don't look at me like that." I didn't know what my face was doing until she said that. I tried to soften it, and it felt like lying to my own skin. "Okay," I said. "Okay, we do this. But there are rules. We freeze the cards, we set up a budget we both stick to, we go to a therapist who knows about this, and you tell me if you feel the itch. You don't tell me after, you tell me before." She nodded fast. Too fast. "Yes, I can do that." She said it like it was the easiest thing. Neither of us knew yet how hard it is to be honest in the middle of a craving. We did all the things you read about when you Google at 2 in the morning. We called our bank and asked them to block categories that looked like games. We set spending alerts so my phone would buzz if anything more than a roll of paper towels got bought. I stared at our budget until the spreadsheet looked like a cereal box. We went to see a therapist in a small office near Grandview who had a soft voice and a shelf of plants all leaning toward her like she was the sun. She used words like compulsion and coping strategy and shame spiral and told me that addiction is a brain thing, not a moral thing. I nodded. "I know you can have a bad alternator in a good car." Amanda cried in that first session and told the story like she was reading it in a book, surprised at some parts. It started with an app on her phone during the shutdown when her sales calls were all little boxes on Zoom. It felt like a slot in her pocket, she said, a hit of bright noise, a coin sound. Then it was sports, because sports are always on. And then it was live streams where people shared their wins and losses like they were prayer requests. "It made me feel less alone," she said. "Work was numbers and targets and being on all day. This made me feel fun." "Do you feel fun now?" I asked, and I hated that I asked it. The therapist shot me a look and wrote something in her notebook. At home, we did cash envelopes for a while like my grandma used to do. Groceries in one, gas in another, dog food in a third. The envelopes made me feel 80, but they also made me feel like we were outsmarting a snake. The first week went okay. The second week was tight and we ate a lot of eggs. The third week we laughed on the couch and watched a terrible movie and she fell asleep with her head on my leg, and I remember thinking maybe this is just going to be a bad story we tell one day. The kind where you say, "Remember one?" and shake your head, "Remember when?" Then the letter came. It was stuck in our mailbox with the junk coupons, and for a second I thought it was a credit card offer. It had that cheap blue stripe on the top and that serious small print along the bottom. It said our payment was late, and if we didn't make it, the lien holder would exercise their right to the collateral. Collateral. That's the kind of word that hums with electricity. It makes the hair on your arms rise. It means something you love is now something someone else can take. I set the letter on the coffee table and waited for her to get home. The timing was bad. She came in with good news about hitting her numbers for the quarter, chattering about a new client in Dublin who loved her pitch. I let her finish, then handed her the letter. I watched the color drop out of her face like someone flicked a switch. "I thought I paid that," she said. "I did. I swear I did." "You didn't," I said. "Or if you did, there were more." "I'll call them tomorrow." "You'll call them now," I said, and I surprised myself again with that tone. "And I'm sitting here while you do it." She sat. She dialed. She used her soft voice on the phone, the one that helps her in sales, the one that makes people want to be nice to her. She cried a little. She promised a payment. When she hung up, she looked up at me like a dog waiting to be told it was good. I didn't know what to do with my hands. We made the payment. Then another. We sold my old toolbox I didn't need anymore and half the snowboards we never use. I put in extra hours at the shop on Broad, stayed late to finish an engine swap for a guy who tips in cash. Amanda went to a group that met in a church basement in Clintonville, and I went with her to the first one and sat in a folding chair and listened to people tell stories that sounded like B-sides to ours. Everything in that room was honest and ugly and somehow kind. You sit in a circle like that and you see how small you are and how big the problem is, and both truths help in different ways. We were 3 months into the new version of us when the first hairline crack showed up again. I noticed it because I notice small things for a living. A squeak, a vibration, a stain that means a leak before the leak is visible. It was a notification on her phone that was too fast to read but had a color I recognized, bright green with confetti. She flipped the phone face down on the table like it was nothing. Later, I checked her battery usage. There was an app I didn't know, called something bland like Clear Sky or Weather Plus. Its battery use was high. I tapped it and got a password prompt. My stomach knew before my finger did. "Hey," I said that night in bed, the fan clicking in that comforting rhythm it makes, the one that sounds like a soft heartbeat. "What's Clear Sky?" "It's a weather app," she said into her pillow. "Everyone uses it." "That's so?" "Yeah. They must be picking a lot of weather then. Your battery's dying for it." "Can we not?" she said, rolling over to face the wall. "I'm trying to sleep." The next morning, an email came to the shared address we used for stuff like coupons and dog adoption newsletters. It was from a vendor thanking her for her purchase, a welcome to premium kind of email. If you've ever tried to convince yourself of something pretty, and then you catch a reflection of the truth in a window and it stops you mid-step, that was me in our kitchen with the email open. I didn't forward it to her. I printed it at work and folded it into my pocket like a receipt. At lunch, I drove by a strip mall near Bethel that had one of those convenience stores with a back room for Keno, the kind of place with clocks that are always a little wrong and a coffee pot that has been there since the recession. Her car was parked out front. I pulled into a spot across the lot and watched her walk out with a plastic cup in her hand and that focused look people get after they've stared too long at a screen. She didn't see me. It's a funny feeling, knowing the person you love can move through your city like a stranger. I didn't confront her there. I followed her back into life and waited until after dinner when the dog was asleep and the dishes were done. I'm not proud of this, but I needed it quiet so the sound of what I was about to break wouldn't echo too much. "Can I borrow your phone?" I asked. "I need to look up a part number." "Use yours," she said. "Mine's upstairs." She hesitated, then slid it across the table. My hands were steady. I'm good with steady. I opened the new app and the lock screen looked like a security camera feed. My thumb hovered. "This is your weather?" I asked. She looked at the table. "Kyle, doubly." "You said you'd tell me before the itch, not after." "I know." Her voice was so small. "I was going to. I just wanted to see, just wanted to check odds, not even to—" I held up the printed email. She shut her eyes. I love you, she said, and it didn't sound like a defense. It sounded like a goodbye. She wasn't brave enough to say out loud, "Do you love me more than this?" The question came out of me without warning. It hung there, dumb and pure. "Yes," she said, too quickly. "Then stop." I placed the phone gently on the table. "Right now. Delete it. Delete everything. Call the counselor. Tell her we need emergency sessions. Tell your group sponsor you slipped." She nodded. She deleted. She cried, and I wanted to gather her up and say it was all right. That's the thing about loving someone who's hurting you. They don't stop being the person you love. They layer something else on top, that's all. And the underneath part still tugs at you. We tried another week. 2. The problem with trusting is that after it's cracked, every sound you hear is another crack, even when it's just the house settling. The 3rd week, she stayed late at work. The 4th week, she said she had a ladies' night. The 5th week, a $200 cash withdrawal showed up on our alert as manual teller. We don't go to tellers. We don't have to. Not for anything good. Not for anything good. That weekend, we were invited to a BBQ at her coworker's place up in Worthington. People from her office chased their kids around a little fenced backyard and talked about conversions and targets and the words they put on slides to make those numbers look exciting. A woman named Jess, the kind who always has a bottle of sunscreen in her bag, stood beside me on the patio and said, "I'm glad you guys are okay." "Thanks," I said, staring at a kid who was trying to eat a corncob whole. "We're getting there." "I didn't mean it like that," she said, lowering her voice. "I mean, I've seen Mandy at that kiosk place by the tavern on Fridays. She told me she was just cashing out lotto, but—" My smile cracked. "Thanks," I said again, and it came out like a scrape. On the drive home down High Street, we didn't talk. Streetlights flickered in the windows like we were underwater and sun was broken on the surface. When we pulled into our alley, she said, "You're angry." "I'm tired," I said. "I slipped," she whispered. "I told my sponsor. I told Marla. I was going to tell you. I was going to tell you tonight." "You were at a BBQ with me tonight." "I know. So when?" She didn't answer. I used to think there were big decisions and small ones. I'd make the big ones with my chest out and a plan, and the small ones would get made by inertia. Turns out the big one happens when you pick up a small thing, your laptop, a folded piece of paper, a set of keys, and set them down somewhere else. The laptop was on the console table by the window. I opened our budget. All our categories lined up like soldiers. I clicked the little share button that made both our faces pop up. I clicked hers and watched it gray out. The screen did a soft animation like a goodbye wave. "What are you doing?" she asked, voice suddenly very awake. "I'm taking you off the shared accounts," I said. I didn't look at her. My hands were steady. "I'm moving my check to a new bank tomorrow. I'll leave money for rent and utilities for the month because I'm not cruel. But after that, it's rent. And then I'm gone." Her chair squealed on the tile. "Kyle, don't. Please, don't say gone. We can fix it. I can fix it." "You said that last time." "And I was doing it. I swear I was. You saw me. I went to group. I did the steps. You also lied. You also put our car on a title loan. You also took cash from a teller so the alert wouldn't say what it was." "I didn't want to disappoint you," she said. "It's like a tunnel, and the only way out is forward. But the forward is dark, and sometimes I feel like I'm running and the light keeps moving." I closed the laptop. The room made a small sound as it settled. "You said you were in control," I said. "You're not. I can't control you. I can only control the exit." "Don't say that," she said. "Don't say that. It sounds like a door closing." "It is." She went very quiet. Then she wiped her cheeks with the sides of her hands like a kid and sat back down in slow motion. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Tell me what to do to keep you." "You can't keep me," I said softly. "That's the problem. I can only decide to stay, and right now I can't." She folded in on herself a little. "I'm going to get help," she said. "Real help. Inpatient. I can. My insurance will cover it. I'll do the whole thing. I'll sell my stuff. You need to do that whether I'm here or not." "And if I do," she said, voice barely there, "will you come home?" I wanted to say yes because I wanted it to be true. I wanted a clear map. I wanted to be a good man with an easy answer. "I don't know," I said. That was the first honest thing between us in weeks. I slept on my brother's couch that night. His place is south of the river, small and clean and haunted by the smell of whatever his downstairs neighbor cooks with a lot of cumin. The dog slept on the floor beside me and thumped his tail against the metal leg of the coffee table every time I moved. In the morning, my brother made coffee the way our mom used to and didn't say anything until I said it first. "She's gambling," I said. "A lot. For a long time." I didn't see it. You don't go looking for snakes in your own bed, he said. You assume the bed is safe. That's not a flaw, that's a human thing. I thought I could fix it, I said. Maybe you can fix you, he said, handing me a mug. That's more than most people try. The next weeks were a series of small humiliations. I sold the car and a piece of my pride with it. It had a little dent on the back bumper I'd always meant to fix, and as the guy from the dealership walked around it with his clipboard, I kept wanting to tell him, I see it too. I see all of it. I used the money to pay off the title loan and chew into the worst of the credit. I set up payment plans with voices on the phone who spoke in their own brand of kindness, firm, bored, efficient. I learned how interest wants to be your roommate. I learned how to say no to myself. I walked to work more and found out Columbus has a different smell when you're on foot. Warm asphalt, lawn, river if the wind is right. Amanda checked herself into a rehab facility out near Polaris. She sent me a picture of a whiteboard in her room with the word surrender on it in blue marker. I didn't know what to do with that. I didn't visit. Not because I wanted to punish her, because I didn't know how to hold my face in a way that wouldn't give her some false hope. She wrote letters at first. The letters were careful, like someone rearranging their own bones. She didn't ask me to come back. She said she was learning words like urge surfing and self-compassion, and that she hated and loved those words because they meant the thing was inside her and the thing could be talked to like a person. I got a place of my own after 3 months. One of those narrow apartments above a closed-down barbershop on Parsons. The windows rattled when trucks went by. I liked the rattle. It made me feel like the building and I were shivering together and that we'd both make it if we kept still. I put my tools on a shelf and my clothes in a milk crate and let the room be mostly empty. Empty felt honest. Work changed, too. There's a way you talk to people about their cars when you're just doing a job. Nice, professional, don't get too involved. Then there's the way you talk when you've lost most of your own life and are trying to build something that doesn't tip over. I listened better. I helped a kid who just moved here from Zanesville find a junkyard alternator and then showed him how to install it on his own in the parking lot. The owner saw that and made a joke about me teaching the customers how not to pay us. I smiled and went back to the lift. But quietly, I had a thought that kept knocking. Maybe I could do this for myself. You don't start a shop with savings when your savings have been eaten by something with a bright green confetti animation. You start with a wrench, a willingness to work weird hours, and a list of friends who trust you. I took small jobs. I put flyers at the laundromat. I tuned an old Civic that a woman was trying to sell, and she tipped me with a free haircut from the salon where she worked. I fixed a neighbor's mower, and he gave me his dad's toolbox, the heavy kind with dents that feel like history. I opened a separate checking account with a bank Amanda didn't know. I watched the numbers move up like a heart monitor. Not fast, just steady. A year is a strange unit when you're counting a life. It's both far and not far at all. I still woke up some mornings with the ghost of her in the pillow beside me, the warmth there like a trick of the sun. I still checked the door twice at night because some part of me expected her to knock like a kid who ran away from home and got tired of the dark. She didn't knock. She texted now and then, small things, a photo of our dog with a bandana, a note that said she made it 60 days, 90, 120. They were not for me, I realized after a while. They were for the version of me in her head that she needed to write to so she didn't feel alone. In late spring, I signed a terrible lease on a little brick space near an alley off Main. The sign out front was a leftover from some past life that sold vacuum bags. I painted over it. The day I opened the door and the bell chimed because I'd adjusted it myself, I stood in the middle of the room and breathed. It smelled like dust and WD-40 and maybe joy. I hung my license on the wall. I put a picture of my dad on a shelf. When the first customer came, a guy with a sputtering Ford and a face like he'd slept in the car, I didn't tell him anything about the year behind me. I just got under the hood. News moved like it does in the slow way within a 3-mile radius, through hairdressers, the gas station guy, the guy at the counter who sells bait and lottery. I heard through a chain of mouths that Amanda was still sober. A friend of a friend said she came back to our old group and spoke about doing step 9, the one where you make amends except when it would hurt someone. I wondered which kind I was. I set that thought on the shelf next to my dad's photo and didn't pick it up for a while. One day in June, when the sky over Columbus looks like a sheet you can actually punch a hole through if you try, a text came through while I was closing the shop. It was a picture of a certificate with her name and a date and the word completion. The text below it said, "I finally finished. I wanted to tell you. I'm sorry for all of it. I hope you're okay. If you ever want to talk, I'm here." I stared at it. I felt the little tug from the underneath part of her, the part I loved. Then I put the phone down on the counter and wiped my hands. I didn't respond that night. I didn't respond the next day. It wasn't cruelty. It was the first calm I'd felt since I saw negative 983 on a small screen at the grocery store, and I wanted to see what happened if I didn't move toward the old shape of us just because it was familiar. At home, on a shelf I built out of old pine, there's a photo album from when our life was still uncracked. Wedding pictures, the dog as a puppy, the first apartment's terrible kitchen with the yellow linoleum. In the back flap, behind a picture of us on a bridge at the Scioto Mile, is a note I wrote the night I moved out and kept because it felt more like a promise to myself than a sentence about her. It says, "Not all losses can be recovered, but some begin freedom." It's been long enough now that if I see a bright green confetti animation in a commercial, I just look away like you look away from the sun reflected in a windshield. My brother comes by the shop sometimes and sits on a tool chest and tells me stories about dates that go wrong. The neighbor kid from down the block brings me lemonade in a sweaty cup that tastes like sugar and tap water and kindness. I do the slow, boring work of paying the last of the debt. It feels like pushing a heavy thing in small inches, and every inch counts. I still don't hate her. If that makes you mad, I get it. Hate would be easier. Hate is a tool that lets you pound all the nails in at once and call the job done. But love is a torque wrench. It clicks at a point you can't see, and if you learn to listen, it keeps you from stripping the threads on the next thing you need to hold. I'm not in love with her. That's different. I'm in love with what I'm building in a small room that smells like oil and hope and summer. I'm in love with not having to read my life from someone else's screen. The last time she wrote, I didn't answer that one either. I printed it and slid it into the back of the album with the others. They're part of the story, not the ending. If you come into my shop needing a belt replaced, or a brake bleed, or just someone to tell you your weird sound isn't a catastrophe, I'll do that. I'll fix what I can. And when I can't, I'll tell you where to go to get it done right. That's what I learned, after all. You can't win back what the machine of loss takes from you. But you can learn the sound your life makes when it is running just enough, and you can keep it tuned to that. Would you have stayed longer if she went to rehab the first time she promised, or would leaving sooner have been mercy for both of you? Where do you draw the line between helping someone and losing yourself to their need? If this story hit a nerve, like and subscribe to hear more first-person stories every week.